morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are and when you watch this program. It's my great honor to welcome you to the event and panel discussion, Insights on the Achievements of Myanmar Spring Revolution. My name is Igor Blaževič, and I will be the host of our program today. I'm a senior advisor at the Prague Civil Society Center, but more importantly for my role today, I'm a head teacher of the Educational Initiatives Myanmar, and I can probably add that I'm one of those good old friends of the people of Myanmar who is supporting Myanmar democracy movement for already over 25 years. Let me start by outlining the agenda and the purpose of our discussion today. For more than 3 years, the Myanmar people have sustained an inclusive, broad-based and democratic revolution against an illegal military junta. Myanmar's pro-democratic partners have forged unprecedented ethnic and civil society alliance that has sustained 3 years of heroic struggle. Something truly extraordinary is happening in Myanmar. With remarkable courage, resilience, and determination, people of Myanmar are breaking long-held myth that the people can never prevail over a tyrannical military. Currently, military junta is on obvious downturn trajectory, and liberation forces are on offensive. However, struggle of the people of Myanmar is largely overlooked and misunderstood by the international community. Myanmar neighbors, countries of Southeast and South Asia, and the rest of the international community are either remaining passive but doing very little or nothing, or from time to time they are launching initiatives which are again and again putting discredited, atrocious criminal military in the center as the indispensable cornerstone of any possible political solution. Over a week ago, leaders of the National Unity Government and its ethnic revolutionary partners have talked to the people of Myanmar in the first session of this program, which aims to mark the People's Spring Revolution progress and accomplishments. Today, we have invited several remarkable international guests, people with outstanding professional careers and the ones who are proven friends of the people of Myanmar. The aim is to provide better insight in the achievements of Myanmar Spring Revolution and to ask several important questions. What Myanmar neighbors and international community need to understand better, what they need to do and what they should not do if they want to stop the war, assist suffering population, support political dialogue and bring back security, democracy, peace, stability and development. We will start today's programs with broadcasting video messages from His Excellency Dr. Jose Ramos Horta, President of Timor-Leste, and Kun Ure, Chairman of the Karenni National Progressive Party and a leader of Ethnic Alliance K3C. After that, we will welcome His Excellency NUG Acting President Dua Lashi La and His Excellency NUG Prime Minister Mawin Kaitan, who will make introductory notes and launch the discussion. After speeches of the NUG Acting President and Prime Minister, I will introduce our panelists. His Excellency Kasit Piromya, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kingdom of Thailand, the Honorable Janelle Saffin, the Member of Parliament in the New South Wales in Australia, and Dr. Turnell, Special Advisor in the Interim Central Bank of Myanmar. So let us start our program with the video messages from His Excellency Dr. Jose Ramos Horta, President of Timor-Leste, and a video message from Kunu Re, Chairman of the Karenni National Progressive Party and a leader of Ethnic Alliance K3C.
Dear friends throughout Myanmar, dear friends represented in this forum, NUG, the ethnic nationality armies, political parties, the entire society of Myanmar. It is with great turbulence in my heart, in my mind, that I'm addressing you. Turbulence because of the suffering, the tragedy, the catastrophe inflicted upon you people by the military 3 years ago and ever since, with the overthrow of the elected parliament and the elected government, elected president of Myanmar, elected by the will of the people in open, fair, transparent elections, without any doubt. The elections were fair, were transparent. And it was the period of 2015, 2020, that Myanmar experienced a democratic spring. Hope, international community were flocking to Myanmar. The country was open. Yes, there were problems. There was this tragic situation of the Rohingya people. There was the violence inflicted on them by the military. Today, it is with optimism, with hope that you are marking the 3rd anniversary of the coup. The military, Tatmadaw, is losing the war. It lost the political battle. It lost everything, any respect, any trust from the people, and any respect, trust from the international community. The resistance, the democratic forces, you are in the upper hand. You are winning this battle. You are winning this war. But continue with absolute integrity, with no violence on any civilian, no violence on captured military personnel, no execution, summary execution of military personnel captured or surrender, no persecution or violence against civilian politicians, business people, or whoever, civilians who might support the military. Show that you are better. Show that you are higher, you are taller than the military. Never descend to their level. In victory, be magnanimous. Extend a hand of friendship to your former enemies. Invite them to join you in rebuilding Myanmar, in peace, in tranquility, in fraternity. Make an example for the rest of the world that you, the democratic leaders of the democratic revolution of Myanmar, having won the war, having won back your rights as a sovereign entity, as a sovereign free country, build an exemplary society without anger, without revenge, without violence. You will lead Myanmar towards a new spring of hope, of prosperity, and Myanmar, with all the resources you have, the wealth you have, nothing lacking in Myanmar. Myanmar will be one of the most visited countries in the years, one of the most influential countries in Southeast Asia and beyond. Timor-Leste, as small as we are, as poor as we are helping you to the extent possible. I never miss an occasion, whether with His Holiness the Pope, with the French president, Indonesian president, or any leader with whom I talk to. I never miss the opportunity to talk about you, about the need for the international community to support the struggle of the people of Myanmar for freedom, for democracy. All the very best. May God bless you all.
It is an honor to be a part of this program and share my experience in shaping this people revolution at this time. I refer to this sharing as a development rather than insight into the revolution achievements. To begin, I'd like to lay the groundwork for who Koreans are. and how they make a living in this country. You may be aware that Karenni State is the smallest state in Burma in terms of geography and population compared to other regions and states. Karenni people have been discriminated against and oppressed by the country military authorities for nearly 6 decades, as have other ethnic states since the independence. Historically, Karenni people may have had communal hostilities rather than clashing over political objectives. But since the state incorporation into Burma, particularly under the reign of military regime, the Karenni people unities has been brittle and competitive, with the successive administration contending locally with the various interests. However, the entire state population suffers similarly with no actual gain to any Karenni communities. There is no difference between other ethnic groups across the country. Karenni people have been unlawfully arrested and detained or killed. Villages have been razed to the ground, and people have fled the country to seek safety in neighboring countries as refugees. All of this bitter experience prompted Karenni people to be conscious and united in their effort to abolish all forms of injustice in the country, together with the other ethnic groups, including the majority Burma. Because Karenni people want to live in peace with others and share a better future with everyone in the country. This is the key fact that motivates the Karenni people, particularly the young generation, to be politically aware and to lead people by cooperating and coordinating with others across the country following the third military coup in 2021. We share the same dilemma as the country continue to lag behind while other countries move forward. Since the peaceful demonstration turned violence and spilling over into the state in mid-2021, the young population made up their mind to take up arms and join existing armed organizations to build a better future. We are not seeking revenge with the hatred for persecution under the successive military rules, but rather to create a better future with our own hands and senses. Since that Karenni has begun to engage with others in the whole country to work together to accommodate our unity and develop a new federal democratic union, while we try to bring our unified effort within the state with a very few resources. Since that we have employed representatives to cooperate with the newly created National Unity Government, NUG, and the National Unity Consultative Council, NUCC, on political and military matters. Based on our experience over the last 3 years, we are entering a new development phase, striving to realize the future we have long envisioned. Today, we are struggling to construct a state administration council as the state governing body to meet the requirements of the people who have fled their homes and scattered in the jungle under the name of the Interim Executive Council of the Karenni State. We structure our governing body with the people from all walks of life in the state who are capable of doing the job, regardless of gender, religious affiliation, or ethnic background, which we prefer to refer to as border-up federalism or state-based federalism, for a better future as a whole, allowing us to exercise our right to administer our state affairs by separating independent judicial and legislative power from executive power. We have received significant support not only from within the country, but also from our diasporas and international communities in various ways, particularly in terms of health, education, and humanitarian assistance, as well as further technical support from international communities. These resources are necessary to progress as far as we have. We genuinely appreciate for those support and hope that we can make our future goal a reality nationwide through our collective efforts. We are still halfway to achieving our common goal and need domestic and international support. After too long of pain and struggle, now is the proper time and effort to create a brighter future by sharing our prosperity with the rest of the world and ensuring global security to make the planet safer and better. To that end, we currently will be one of the resources for creating a new Burma on which the international community co-reliance and trust. People's support within the country and strong support and pressure from outside the countries are still required to achieve our end goal. This is our collective vision for a new future of Myanmar. Thank you.
Let me give a floor now to His Excellency, Acting President Duvalashila. Mr. President, it's our honor that we can welcome you in this program today. May I ask you to deliver your introductory speech?
Thank you, Igor. Good to see you. It is an honor to join today's panel event marking our Spring Revolution's progress and accomplishments. I wish to thank His Excellency President Jose Ramos, holder of Timor-Leste, for his deep solidarity with the people of Myanmar. I appreciate Kure, chairman of the Karenni National Progressive Party and a leader of Ethnic Alliance K3C, for sending a video message on unity and victories of our people's revolution. I also wish to recognize our host, Igor, Blaževič, and my distinguished co-panelists, Prime Minister Manwin Khaitan, His Excellency Kasit, Piromya, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Thailand, Australian parliamentarian, the Honorable Janelle Saffin, and Professor Turnell, Special Advisor to the Interim Central Bank of Myanmar. Today, we meet to recognize the astonishing progress of our People's Spring Revolution. Our refusal to surrender our freedom and democracy stood as a shining example to the world. Now, more than 3 years later, the military junta is fighting for its survival. The junta's collapse appears sudden. Myanmar's ethnic revolutionary forces and their PDF partners have shattered the myth that our people could never prevail over the brutal military. Our allied forces have liberated close to 80 towns and have secured historic victories, including control of the junta Regional Command headquarters. This success has, of course, come with a terrible cost. Our revolution has demanded extraordinary courage and self-sacrifice from our people. I salute all of our fallen heroes, and I share my deepest sympathies with their families. More victories will follow, more junta regional commands will collapse, and more junta troops will abandon their posts to join our revolution. As our reach grows, we are expanding service provision and administrative governance with our ethnic and civil society partners to ensure that all Myanmar communities are protected and have their needs met. We will also continue to protect civilian lives, homes, and property in all of our operations. Adherence to military ethics is of the utmost importance. We will never adopt the behaviors of the war criminals we oppose. Our forward planning cannot wait until the days of ultimate victory. We are readying our plans for reconstruction and economic recovery, for reform state institutions, and for truly inclusive policies that address the root causes of divisions. At the heart of this plan is a new social contract. Equality, non-discrimination, and self-determination are foundation principles to our ethnic and civil society alliance. This partnership will serve as the foundation for a truly federal, representative, and inclusive democracy. I have a message for our neighbors and our fellow Asian members today. Myanmar's revolutionary partners are committed to peace, security, and stability throughout our entire region. Please work with us to restore order in Myanmar for our common good and for our shared prosperity. I also have a message to the international community. We, the people, stand for unity, freedom, and civilian rule. The Honda, however, represents repression, chaos, and atrocities. The choice then is stark and clear. Freedom of terror, accountability, or impunity, democracy, or the dictatorship. Now, it's the time to stand with us on the right side of history. We have shown the depth of our commitment to our cause. We have established our effective control. Help us to finish the fight. The surest way to save lives and to end the conflict is for the international community to formally recognize Myanmar's pro-democracy partners and to have expedite our victory. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving a very clear message. Thank you also for giving this speech of the confidence which is rooted in a courage and determination of the people of the Myanmar. Let me now welcome His Excellency Prime Minister Mawin Kai-tan and ask him to give us the introduction speech. The Prime Minister, the floor is yours.
Hello, Menglava. Mengla Sure Sakaloha, Magamu, the Wardia, Pay Pianin at the wall, a deep yara job. Yamananganguyo, Kavaguva, Konjuma Peter, Seana Shin Digo, Magamu, the Wardiago, Pay Pianin, Jusa Nijare, Yamanangandu, Nanganda Alune, Adi Jusa Mu, why won't talk? Abe Nijare, Kavadu Vara, Alunguva, Menglava. No Sierra, Kipare. Yamanangama, Anna Yudu, a champion seconds on a bombard sugar. Matea Anna Lu, you Juzarago, Yamabidulu, Pidu goes up, Mutan New Suane, Diana, don't lie in Yazuri Power, don't lie in Yazuri, Alonga, Lower Lemacame, keep young Senebio, don't lie to Google, Pimpia Piatare, Tanditane, Sene Dagbo Winnie Timi Nalebi, Yamabidu Ludune Tudua, Yadi Pijare, Nanganaga, Mesumia Alungu, Jesu Dinjangule, မြန်မာပြည်သူများကိုစားထပ်လောင်းပြောကြားခြင်းပါတယ်ကျေးဇူးတင်ထိုက်သူတွေကိုကျေးဇူးတင်ပြီးမှာမြန်မာပြည်သူတွေနဲ့အတူပြည်သူတော်လှန်ရေးနဲ့အတူရပ်တည်ဖို့တွေ့ဝေတုံ့ဆိုင်နေကြတဲ့တွန့်ဆုတ်နေကြတဲ့အချို့သောနိုင်ငံတွေအစုအဖွဲ့တွေကိုလည်းသတင်းစကားအချို့ပါလိုပါတယ်အမျိုးသားညီညွတ်အစိုးရအနေနဲ့ပြည်သူဆန္ဒကိုအခြေခံပြီးပေါ်ပေါက်လာခဲ့တဲ့အစိုးရအရာတရဖြစ်တာကြောင့်ပြည်သူကိုဗဟိုပြုတဲ့စံတန်ဖိုးတွေကိုပေါ်ဆောင်တဲ့ Federal Democracy ပြည်ထောင်စုတည်ဆောက်နိုင်ဖို့ဆိုတဲ့ရည်မှန်းချက်နဲ့လွတ်လပ်တကြွပြီးဘက်မလိုက်တဲ့နိုင်ငံခြားရေးမူဝါဒကိုချမှတ်ကျင့်သုံးလျက်ရှိပါတယ်ဒီရည်မှန်းချက်တွေကိုရောက်ဖို့ဆိုရမှာရှေ့ကနေခလုတ်ကသင်းတစ်ခုလိုအတားအဆီးဖြစ်နေတဲ့စစ်အာဏာရှင်စနစ်အပါအဝင်အာဏာရှင်စနစ်မှန်သမျှအမြင့်ပြတ်ဆုံးသတ်မှတ်တာဖြစ်မယ်ဆိုတာကိုပြည်သူလူထုနဲ့တော်လှန်ရေးအင်အားစုတွေအားလုံးဟာဆယ်စုနှစ်ပေါင်းများစွာရင်းနှီးခဲ့ရသောအတွေ့အကြုံတွေရခိုင်ခိုင်မာမာနားလည်သဘောပေါက်ထားကြပြီးဖြစ်ပါတယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့အနေနဲ့လည်းဒီလိုနားလည်သဘောပေါက်မှုမျိုးကနေဖြစ်တည်လာတဲ့ပြည်သူလူထုရဲ့ခိုင်ကြီးပြတ်သားတဲ့စိမ့်ပိုင်းဖြတ်မှုတွေကိုဥထိပ်ပန်ပြီးဒီຫນွေဥတော်လှန်ရေးကိုဆင်နွှဲနေတာဖြစ်တာကြောင့်ဟိုဘက်ရင်းနေဒီဘက်ရင်းနေဆိုတဲ့ပြောဆိုမှုတွေကိုပြတ်ပြတ်သားသားညှင်းဆန်ပါတယ်မြန်မာနိုင်ငံသူနိုင်ငံသားတွေအတွက်ရောဒေသတွင်တည်ငြိမ်ရေးအတွက်ရောကမ္ဘာငြိမ်းချမ်းရေးအတွက်ရောစိုးစိမ်ပူပန်ကြပြီးဒီကိစ္စတွေပြီးဆုံးဖို့အမှန်တကယ်ပံ့ပိုးကူညီကြသူတွေကိုမြန်မာຫນွေဥတော်လှန်ရေးနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးအချက်၃ချက်ကိုပြောပြခြင်းပါတယ်ပထမချက်ကတော့ဒီຫນွေဥတော်လှန်ရေးဘယ်ကလာခဲ့တယ်လဲဆိုတာပဲဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒါကတော့ရှင်းပါတယ်အာဏာယူသွတ်တဲ့မင်းအွန်လိုင်းနဲ့အပေါင်းပါတစုဟာစစ်တပ်ကိုကပိုက်ဆောင်တပ်ဖွဲ့လို့အသုံးပြုပြီးပြည်သူအာဏာကိုမတရားလူယူဖို့ကြိုးစားတာကြောင့်ဖြစ်ပါတယ်မိမိရဲ့ကိုကြိုးစည်းပွားကိုသာရှေ့တန်းတင်ကြတဲ့စစ်အာဏာရှင်ဆက်ကြောင့်ပျက်စီးခဲ့ရပြီဖြစ်တဲ့မြန်မာစစ်တပ်ရဲ့ဖိစီးနှိပ်စက်မှုတွေကိုအနှစ်လခံခဲ့ရတဲ့တိုင်းရင်းသားတွေပြည်သူတွေဟာဒီတစ်ခါမှတော့ငုံမခံပဲတုံ့ပြန်ခဲ့တာကြောင့်ဒီတော်လှန်ရေးစတင်ခဲ့တာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒုတိယအချက်အနေနဲ့ကတော့ဒီຫນွေဥတော်လှန်ရေးဘယ်အခြေအနေရောက်ပြီလဲဆိုတဲ့အပိုင်းပဲဖြစ်ပါတယ်မြန်မာຫນွေဥတော်လှန်ရေးဟာ3နှစ်ကျော်ကာလတခုကြာမြင့်လာတဲ့အချိန်မှာဘုံရန်သူကိုလည်းပြက်ထင်သိမြင်ဘုံပန်းနိုင်ကိုလည်းထင်ရှားတွေ့မြင်နေရပြီဖြစ်တဲ့တော်လှန်ရေးအင်အားစုတွေအနေနဲ့စုစည်းညီညွတ်မှုတွေရလာနေပြီဖြစ်သလိုပြည်သူတရက်လုံးကိုရန်သူလိုသဘောထားပြီးနေ့စဉ်ရက်ဆက်ကြမ်းကြုတ်ရက်ဆက်နေတဲ့စစ်အုပ်စုကတော့တတိပြိုလဲရာကနေမကြခင်ဘုံလဲတော့မဲ့အခြေအနေရောက်ရှိနေပါပြီတော်လှန်ရေးအင်အားစုတွေစိုးမိုးသိမ့်ပိုက်ထိန်းချုပ်ထားတဲ့မြို့နယ်89မြို့နယ်ရှိနေပြီဖြစ်သလိုအချမ်းဘက်စစ်အုပ်စုမလုံနိုင်အောင်ဝိုင်းဝန်းပိတ်ဆို့ထားတဲ့မြို့105မြို့တိရှိလာနေပါပြီမင်းအွန်လိုင်းတို့အုပ်စုတေချာစွာထိန်းထိုင်နိုင်တဲ့မြို့နယ်ဟာတနိုင်ငံလုံးရဲ့28%တော့မရှိတော့ပါဘူးဒါဟာလက်ရှိအခြေအနေပါနောက်ဆုံးချက်ကတော့ဒီຫນွေဥတော်လှန်ရေးဘယ်ကိုသွားမှာလဲဆိုတဲ့အပိုင်းဖြစ်ပါတယ်အကြမ်းဖက်စစ်တပ်မရှိရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့တိုင်းပြည်ကအချင်းချင်းမညီညွတ်နဲ့တစစီပြိုကွဲသွားနိုင်တယ်ဆိုတဲ့စိုးရင်သလိုဆွဆွဲသလိုစကားတွေကြားနေရပါတယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့သွားမဲ့ပန်းနိုင်ဟာအစိတ်အမှောင်မှာပြိုကွဲသွားမဲ့တိုင်းပြည်မဟုတ်ပါဘူးပြည်တော်စုတင်နေထိုင်ကြတဲ့စုံလင်ကွဲပြားသောလူမျိုးတွေရဲ့သရုပ်လက္ခဏာ identity တွေကိုကာကွယ်မြင့်တင်ပေးတဲ့ဒီမိုကရေစီရေးအမျိုးသားတန်းတူရေးနဲ့ကိုယ်ပိုင်ပြဋ္ဌာန်းခွင့်အခွင့်အရေးတွေအပြည့်အဝရှိတဲ့ပြည်နယ်တွေနဲ့စုဖွဲ့ထားတဲ့ Federal Democracy ပြည်ထောင်စုပဲဖြစ်ပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီကိုကျွန်တော်တို့သွားမှာပါဒါကိုလည်းတော်လှန်ရေးအင်အားစုတွေအများစုကြားမှာတူညီတဲ့သဘောထားတွေရှိထားပြီးဖြစ်သလိုထပ်မံပြီးပါဝင်လာကြဖို့ကိုလည်းဆက်လက်လှုပ်ဆောင်နေပါတယ်မြန်မာပြည်သူတွေဟာကိုယ်ကံကြမ္မာကိုဖန်တီးနိုင်မှုကိုလန်းကိုဖောက်တော်လှန်ရေးခီးကိုရှောက်ခဲ့ကြတာပန်းတိုင်နဲ့လက်တကမ်းကိုရောက်ရှိနေပြီဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒါကြောင့်နိုင်ငံတကာအနေနဲ့အခုချိန်ဟာမြန်မာပြည်သူတွေဘက်ကရက်ပြီးဘယ်သူမှကောင်းကျိုးမပေးတဲ့ စစ်အာဏာရှင်စနစ်တစ်ခုကိုကမ္ဘာမြေပေါ်ကဝိုင်းဝန်းအဆုံးသတ်တဲ့အချိန်အခါဖြစ်ကြောင်းပြောကြားရင်းနဲ့ညီကုန်းချုပ်ပါတယ်အားလုံးကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much for expressing in such a clear way what are the real problem and the source of the crisis in Myanmar, expressing where we are clearly where we are now in terms of people of Myanmar and revolutionary forces having a clear common enemy and clear common goal, and also describing in such a good way where we are going to the federal, democratic, prosperous future of the Myanmar. I really hope that our discussion today will contribute for those who are, as you mentioned, still hesitant and reluctant to hear where the will of the people of Myanmar stands, and that it will also be heard by those who are the friends of the Myanmar to increase and accelerate their support. So, Prime Minister, thank you very much. Let me now move to our panelists from today. The first one, His Excellency Kasit Piromya, who is a former Foreign Minister of the Kingdom of Thailand. He served as the minister between 2008 and 2011, and after that he served in the parliament for the Democratic Party. His Excellency Kasit Piromya is also experienced and esteemed diplomat who served in the Soviet Union, Russia, Japan, Germany, United States, and Indonesia. Currently, he is a board member of the ASEAN Parliamentarians for Human Rights and very outspoken on the situation in Myanmar, both in Thailand and internationally. Your Excellency, thank you for joining us today. It's a real honor to have you in our panel.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is the Honorable Janelle Saffin, currently MP in the New South Wales Legislative Assembly. Janelle has served in both state and federal Australian parliaments as a member of the Labour Party. From 2004 until 2007, Janelle was a senior political advisor to Dr. Ramos Horta while he was Timor-Leste Foreign Minister, Defense Minister, Prime Minister, and President. But Janelle is also a long-time Burma campaigner. She lectured on the constitutional law to the Myanmar MPs and has founded the Australian Myanmar Parliament Group. Honorable Janelle Saffin, thank you for joining us. We appreciate a lot, not only that you join us today, but even more so for your long and committed support to the people of Myanmar.
Thank you. It's a real honor to be here.
And our next panelist is someone who is not necessary to introduce to the Myanmar audience. Dr. Turnell, Honorary Professor of Economics at Macquarie University in Australia and Senior Fellow at the Lowy Institute. Sean was a Special Economic Advisor to Myanmar State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi between 2016 and 2021, and currently he is serving as a Special Advisor of the Interim Central Bank of Myanmar. Sean is author of books Unlikely Prisoner, about his experience in junta jail, and Best Laid Plans, the upcoming book on Myanmar's economic reforms of 2016-2021. Dr. Turnell, dear Sean, my dear all-time friend, it's a really great pleasure for me to welcome you in a panel.
Thank you, Igor. It's a great pleasure and an honor to be with you and with everyone on this panel.
Thank you. So, Your Excellency, Kasit Piromya, Janelle, Sean, I have introduced you with your formal roles, with your outstanding professional achievements, but largely you are also today here because you are old, good friends of the Myanmar and of its people. So let me start with the question, how and when your relations with the Myanmar started. You are regarded by the many in the country, and rightly so, as a good old friend. So what drives your special relations with the country and the people? Janelle, maybe you can kick off.
Look, the people of Myanmar have suffered for decades, I mean decades, and under military rule, and it's something that the international community doesn't know enough about, and rather, quiet. But over 30 years ago, a lawyer friend who's Burmese, Anglo-Burmese, asked me to help with lawyers and with the constitutional and federal issues. And I spent many years on the borders, in the camps, and with the ethnic nationalities, learnt a lot about what their needs were, federalism, their long-held desire that was desired by them, and look, became friends with many all over Burma, all over Myanmar, and have travelled there many times, spent a lot of time there. So I've stayed committed. And someone once said to me, they're on a journey. And I said, I'll stay with you until you get a civilian government and the federal democratic system of government that you need.
Thank you, Janelle. Kasit, when your relations with the Myanmar started and how your love story with the country started?
Well, I have been living in the history of Thai-Myanmar relationship since childhood. First is the history textbook, especially about the warfares between Thailand and Myanmar of the past. Second is the living evidences of the relationship. The old capital of Ayutthaya and the present capital of Thailand, Bangkok. And before that, the capital city of Thonburi on the opposite side of Bangkok, on the other side of the Chao Phraya River. And both cities, Thonburi and Bangkok, are the legacies of the Thai-Myanmar relationship to this very present day and for the years to come. Then when I finished my high school education at St. Joseph College, Darjeeling, West Bengal, India, about 60 years ago. And many of my friends were coming from Myanmar. And to this very day, we still keep in touch. And our school reunion took place in Vietnam just a couple of months ago. And amongst all about, I think, 100 former students of St. Joseph, about almost 20 of them came from Myanmar, not directly from Myanmar, but from Canada, Australia, the United States, England, and so on. And quite a few of them were of the Indian and ethnic minorities, and they had to leave Myanmar in the 1962. And throughout my diplomatic career, I had to deal on and off with the Thai-Myanmar relations. And I also had to deal with Myanmar in the context of the ASEAN community, which for quite some time, I was a desk officer and then foreign minister and so on. So I have that affinity, closeness, also to a certain extent, sense of belonging and ownership of what's going on in Myanmar. I could not forget the fact that many of my Burmese friends had to leave Myanmar for political reasons and so on. And it stuck into my heart and my mind. And so my intention all along to see the betterment and advancement of Myanmar and to do whatever I can to help that process, of democratization, of development, of dignity in the eyes of the international community. So in a sense, it was a passion. And I'm still very keen to see a democratic federal Myanmar. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasit. And you're really a precious voice in Thailand for the people of Myanmar, and I'm sure they appreciate it a lot because the Thailand is the critical country for the Myanmar. and the voices like yours are really much, much, much needed. So thank you very much for what you are doing, and please continue. Sean, you have paid your dedication to Myanmar also by spending quite some time in a jail. So how your love story with the Myanmar started?
So mine dates back to 1990, Igor. A share house, Burmese friends, just escaped the 88 revolution. So it begins in friendship, in food, developing passion and fascination with Burmese history, a horror at all the things that my friends had gone through, who then discovered I was an economist. And they said, Sean, help us with some of the economics. Let's do some economic critiques of what this military is doing to Myanmar. So I joined them in that. And then over time, just got pulled ever deeper, as I'm sure in the familiar way to all of us. Worked on the economy, critiquing it, trying to work out the military's weaknesses and what it was doing. Finally, of course, we get elections in 2015. Dorsu wins those elections in the NLD. And she said to me on the day after the elections, she said, Sean, you've been helping us all these years. Time to put your money where your mouth is. Come over here and give us a hand. So I did that, had some wonderful years working with friends and colleagues in Myanmar. And then, of course, the coup happened and I was imprisoned, as you said, Igor. But my love for Burmese people actually only increased, and has only increased in that period since, because, of course, they're the first victims of the military, and they, with great courage, great compassion, kept me alive. So I feel very obligated anew to the Burmese people, and a very great love affair with the country continues.
Thank you, Sean, very much. And my love relations with the country started because President Havel sent me to Myanmar in 1998. And he said me, go and bring anything from Myanmar, picture, story, and then we will make attention. I will come to that exhibition, then the media will come and we will highlight the fate of the Aung San Suu Kyi and the fate of the democratic struggle of the people of Myanmar. In the moment of the coup, in February 2021, pretty much everybody among the international actors, the diplomats, the military attaches, the seasoned journalists, the policymakers have expected that military junta will crack down on the civic protests, that it will take not more than 3 to 6 months for them to regain control. And arguments in that moment has been that military is too strong, and even more so that military is too brutal. Another argument has been that there is no historic precedence in Myanmar that popular uprising has been successful. So in a moment when the civic protesters are calling and expecting neighbors, ASEAN, the UN, Asian and Western democracies to reject the coup, to recognize the NUG and to protect the people from the military terror, it is fair to say that basically outside world decided to sit and wait and let the junta finish its dirty job. However, things didn't happen how neighbors and international expected. So Janelle, I will start with you. If you can give us explanation why the story of Myanmar in the last 3 years has been different. Why Myanmar, after the attempted coup, has not been yet another tragic story of bloody suppression of popular uprising. Why Myanmar is emerging today as a fascinating story of the power of the people that cannot be defeated, and why it is emerging as a story of people winning over brutal dictatorship. What is your explanation as somebody who knows country and its people very well?
Firstly, I'd say that the people will prevail. That's absolutely clear. They're resolute. They're resolute, they're resilient. And from those years, from 2010 to 2020, and particularly 2015 to 20, they had a taste of freedom, albeit a prescribed freedom, because there was still the military with, their it was a bifurcated government, a civilian government, and the military still had a lot of control. So there was an absolute taste of freedom. And then when the coup happened, it shocked them, like it shocked the people, and particularly a whole range of young people who got used to social media. I mean, and even the parliamentarians, the people who'd been elected, and everybody was resolute in saying, we cannot go back. We cannot go back to full military rule. And that was clear from the beginning. And also, I'll just make this point that gets forgotten. On the evening of the coup, when Min Aung Hlaing, General Min Aung Hlaing, the military ruler, was trying to negotiate with Aung San Suu Kyi, she rejected that. Because in a sense, it could have gone on as it was. She rejected it. The people rejected it. Everybody knew it. And secondly, the military have always projected themselves, and I talk about not the common soldiers, but, you know, the elite military, the rulers, and they project themselves as being someone who can't be beaten. Well, they're on their knees at the moment. That's clear. We just heard the Prime Minister say the 77 townships are under the control of PDFs, ethnic nationalities, NUG, not with the military. And it's really clear that there's no going back. People have paid with their lives. The People's Defence Forces, and as they say, they're defending their right to democracy, to a civilian government, to the federal democratic system of government that everybody knows is needed in Burma, and particularly with all the ethnic nationalities. So people have come together. What I call it a political pact. They've come together with a common purpose, a common cause, and that is the civilian government and a federal democratic system of government where there's equality, there's autonomy, there's non-discrimination, there's power sharing, division of power. There's just no going back. And to the international community, I say that it is time to really back all of these actors in. People look at the military as state actors. Well, we've got a whole lot of other state actors. That's the NUG, the People's Defence Forces, the ethnic nationalities, local governance, administration. And that's reality, and that's what we now have to back in.
Thank you, Janelle, and thank you very much for highlighting this message, no going back. This is something what is extremely important to be articulated today, because quite a lot of international initiatives and neighbor initiatives are still basically seeing the solution for the Myanmar as going back to the 2010 arrangement, or going back to the triangle in which there will be agreement between the military, between somebody representing Burma population and ethnic nationalities. So this commitment of the people of the Myanmar of not going back is something what hopefully the neighbors and international communities will hear, so that they don't contribute to prolonging this devastating conflict.
Igor, could I just add to that? I just wanted to add that with the military, like everyone around them who are close to them need to tell them it's over. Their rule is over, and find a way out.
Thanks a lot, Janelle. Kasit and Sean, would you like to add something on how you understand why the Spring Revolution is different from previous democratic uprisings in Myanmar? And what is giving the strength and endurance to the people of Myanmar?
First, the seeds of the discontentment, especially since 1988, have always been there. The failure of the military junta all along to deliver the quality of life to the people. Second, everyone has realized that Burmanization has not been successful. Third, as what Janelle had just mentioned, about 10-15 years of freedom you know, in the years at around 2008 onwards. And the fact that Myanmar did join the ASEAN community, and many Myanmar people went to neighboring countries, especially to Thailand and Malaysia, for meetings, for business, for work, for tourism. And they have seen the quality of life, the freedom to lead and to live a life, and they have come back, of course, with the wish that the Myanmar society would be the same. So when this coup d'etat came, all the wishes and the desire to oppose the military junta came together without any prior arrangements. It just erupted. Because all the Myanmar people, the Burman majority, the Karenni, the Chin, the Shan, and so on, they all have said to one another in their minds, enough and is enough. And it's about time that we oppose, because we want to live in the atmosphere of freedom and good living and so on. So it's a collective undertaking without prior arrangement and design and so on. But they have, everyone has tested the good quality of life in an open atmosphere. And I think the junta, the Tatmadaw, underestimated the thinking and the wishes of the ordinary people. And they thought that the coup d'etat would be a fait accompli within 24, 28 hours, like every other coup d'etat before that. And like every coup d'etat in neighboring Thailand, in the Philippines or Indonesia. But it's a different Myanmar society together. It's a different set of people together. And Myanmar is a relatively a very young country. You know, it's a lot of young people. And young people want to see change. They have the social media, they have the exposure. And repression is no longer the name of the game. And they were, I think, decided that it's about time that they come out and oppose, which is a healthy thing. And I do agree with Janelle that the military junta, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, should have come to the realization now that after 3 years, the coup d'etat has completely failed. And they are on the losing side. They have to stop the killings and come to the negotiating table. And this is where the international community, the ASEAN member state, the dialogue partners of ASEAN, the UN Secretary General, could come together and send a strong message. And one of the ASEAN member states could organize an inter-Myanmar parties conference in Bangkok or in Kuala Lumpur or in Jakarta. I think the time is appropriate because there is no victory on the part of the military junta. Their days are numbered. I do agree fully.
Thank you, Kun Kasit, and thank you for highlighting the role of the young people and highlighting that it's really about collective decision. It's really about the decision of the people of the Myanmar to basically say enough is enough. And I really appreciate that you have mentioned and highlighted that it's not just about removing the military repression and military oppression, but it's also about removing the Burmanization, removing the oppression of one majority group or oppressing everybody in the name of one majority group. And that what we have now in Myanmar is really extraordinary common understanding between the Burma majority and the ethnic nationalities. And this is something what is a huge game changer in our current situation.
Can I add one more sentence?
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
I think the land of Myanmar as a whole was balkanized from the beginning, and various Burmese kingdoms had tried to control the whole of Myanmar. You know, but they were opposed by the Arakans, by the Shan, by the Mons. So it was all along an unsuccessful attempt, unsuccessful story. Even when the British came to rule, they have not been able to unify the whole of Myanmar. And post-colonialism, the military establishment had been trying and they have failed. It's not only these past 3 years. For the past 70, 75 years, the Burmanization was a total failure. Military government was also a total failure. And now the military establishment is on the losing side. The only way out at the moment is to come to the negotiating table, or either they have to go to the Hague, to the Court of Justice and all of this, and imprisonment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasit. Sean, would you like to add something from what you think and how you feel? What is bringing us in this really unique, extraordinary opportunity?
I've been really struck, Igor, by the incredible discipline and creativity of so many people in the Burmese revolutionary movement at sustaining that movement financially without any international support. It's really quite extraordinary, actually, the level of creativity on all sorts of financial instruments that have just kept things going along, as I say, without support, and in great contrast to the regime. The regime under Min Aung Hlaing that has effectively destroyed Myanmar's economy. Well, here we've got the living example of an opposition with no benefits in terms of, you know, again, any international support or stability and so on within the country, but who are able to fund this revolution and fund a lot more besides, and I think give us a glimpse as to what is possible in the future. So I've just been really struck, I think, by the nous of a group of young people. We've been celebrating them, who I think not only got used to freedom, but got used to proper ways of doing things. And we're seeing that in the opposition. And again, in stark contrast to Min Aung Hlaing and his cronies who really don't have much of a future, I don't think.
I fully agree with you, and I'm involved in support not only to the people of Myanmar, but also I'm quite a lot in a contact with people struggling in Ukraine, in democratic opposition in Russia, in other places, and really the young generation is bringing all these aspirations which no regime is able to whip up anymore, but they are also bringing the kind of the creativity, the type of the visionary, which is also a game changer. Unfortunately, let's say many young people in Myanmar and around the world are paying too heavy price for their aspirations for the freedom. Let us now go a little bit to the approach of the international players to the Myanmar, and Kasit, I will start with you and with the ASEAN. That the UN, the international community, has delegated responsibility for Myanmar to ASEAN. And nobody has challenged ASEAN centrality, ASEAN primary role in dealing with the Myanmar. And ASEAN has accepted that role willingly. But 3 years of the crimes, of the atrocities, probably over 20,000 people civilians being killed, 3 million of the refugees. And if we look what ASEAN has done, we can say it's a big failure. So what is your explanation? Let's say what ASEAN policymakers and Thai policymakers, what they didn't get right, what they should understand better, what they should do differently to really fulfill what the international community is expecting from us.
In the course of 2009, 10, and so on, I was the foreign minister. And I think we were in the midst of the Nagri cyclone, as well as the suspended at that time, the 7-point roadmap towards democracy. But all the 9 members of ASEAN has a common sense of purpose, unified position. And together, we, the 9, was able to speak to, at the time, General Thein Sein, the Prime Minister, and I think Banna, the Foreign Minister, that there is some sort, or there was some sort of obligation on the part of Myanmar towards the ASEAN community, that without the I think hesitation to push Myanmar back to democracy, Myanmar has become a problem for the rest of ASEAN, and it is not right for the rest of ASEAN to shoulder Myanmar around the world, protecting Myanmar, and let the Myanmar continue with a military government. So collectively, the 9 ASEAN were acting as one unit. And then the Myanmar military authority opened up Myanmar for humanitarian and reconstruction assistance post Nagris cyclone. So it was a great achievement. The ASEAN Secretariat even sent a front office in Yangon. And concurrently, every time that we meet together, ASEAN of the 10, in the presence of the representatives of Myanmar, informally, formally, we finally succeeded. The military government under General Thein Sein at that time to put the 7-point roadmap into practice. So we had the release of Aung San Suu Kyi, the writing of the constitution, the referendum, and finally, elections under a democratic constitution. So once upon a time, we were able to act together as one unit. But for the past 3 years, there is no unity inside ASEAN. Somdet Hun Sen of Cambodia has his own idea. The General Prayut Chan-o-cha and the Thai then Foreign Minister, Mr. Don, had another general idea. The Laotian, the Vietnamese, and the Brunei were staying put. Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, or the Philippines could not get a word across to the military junta, and we were not unified or united. And there is no one inside the ASEAN to take the leadership, a president, prime minister, or the sultan, or a foreign minister. It was no longer the good old days of having a leading personality to take up the leadership, to take up the mantle and try to bring everyone in. Thailand has failed completely and even deviated from the 5-point consensus, acting alone for no obvious rational reason or argument, and so on. Indonesia, which should take up the leadership, especially last year, has been too much paying attention to the domestic politics and all of that, and so on. And likewise, Malaysia under Anwar Ibrahim, too much of the domestic things, and there is no guts and determination for the chair of ASEAN to rally everyone to a negotiating or to a meeting table and forge a common position. So it has been the failure of the collective ASEAN leadership. And it's about time that international community take over the mantle, especially the UN Secretary General, and can work with ASEAN. But the international community or the United Nations can no longer leave the responsibility to ASEAN, because the ASEAN community has no will and has no wish and has no leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Janelle, Sean, if I go to you and then if we zoom as Kasit gave us, do you think that international community can take over? Because the UN, Western and Indo-Pacific democracies have failed people of Myanmar in a similar way. And can we expect, let's say, something from the international community? And if yeah, for broader international communities, and if yes, what? Let's say, what they need to do, who needs to take the leadership? Let's say, Janelle?
What Kun Kasit said about ASEAN, look, I'll just step back. The Security Council outsourced the responsibility to ASEAN, and then with the 5 points consensus, and we haven't seen any advance with that. And what Kun Kasit's saying, you know, who's leading, how are they doing it, what are they doing? Even when Min Aung Hlaing went to the first meeting where they established the 5 points consensus, as soon as he landed back in Yangon or Naypyidaw, he immediately dismissed it. You know, it was like he walked away from it. So that was from the beginning. And the second part is there has to be a will, a political will to say we have to work to do this. Some of this is history, but I can remember when Myanmar was invited into ASEAN, I wrote to the late Dr. Surin Pitsuwan, with whom I was friends, and I said to him that it will be like going, for ASEAN, it will be like going into a death roll with a crocodile. It will be slow, but it will be sure, because they'll try and pull people down. I know the thinking from Malaysia at the time is to lift them up. That's just a little bit of history. But with the international community, first of all, there needs to be a core of a will. There needs to be a core of like-minded countries that's happened before that work together, stay on the case. And I understand, you know, there's a special envoy for the Secretary General, and she's doing her work not in a megaphone way, you know, but doing it sort of quietly. But we also need someone else, other people speaking out. Also, we need countries who have relationships with ASEAN. I come from one, Australia. You know, we have an old relationship with ASEAN. All of us now is the time right now to step up more, give more support to all of the actors, and not wait and see, and not be nervous about supporting some of those other actors, the NUG, the ethnic nationalities. I know there's support with humanitarian assistance, but we need development support. We need practical support, administrative support. And Kun Kasit made the point that people have been freewheeling within ASEAN, and it needs a more concerted effort. They still invite what they call a bureaucratic person to meetings. And then there's the ASEAN Interparliamentary Assembly, and the chair of the representative parliament of Myanmar, U Aung Ji Nun, writes to them, and they ignore, and they invite someone from the Attorney General's Department of Myanmar. So all of these things need to change. Otherwise, it will just keep limping along like it is, in terms of no concerted support from the international community. Also, there's a lot of UN agencies inside Myanmar. I understand the constraints of working in there, but there's a lot more that can be done to support all of these other actors, and not just, you know, working with the military or the SAC, who can't deliver services either. So it's about service delivery, support for administration, support for these other actors that I call state actors as well.
Ron, is there something what you would like to add? What you think? What the either neighbors or regional countries, democracies, international community should do in this moment?
Yeah, Igor, so we've been highlighting the lack of will. Well, one of the ways to get that will amongst the international community is for them to simply recognise that the SAC regime is not a reliable partner economically, for business or anything else, and certainly not diplomatically or strategically, and it's also not going to last very long. So for entirely pragmatic reasons, the will should be there, given that there really is no alternative but the opposition at the in the longer term. The other point I'd make, I think, is that what's been demonstrated recently are that financial sanctions, financial restrictions on the regime are incredibly effective. If you look at some of the things that have been going on, the acquisition of weapons, we always must remember the only advantage that the SAC regime has over the opposition is advanced weaponry, particularly delivered from the air-delivered munitions, etc. But that requires foreign exchange. And in recent times, various countries, but especially the United States, has begun to put the squeeze on the foreign exchange that the SAC regime is able to get, and that has reduced the supply of weaponry. Now, there's still too much there, as we know. There are many loopholes, but closing off those loopholes, if other countries, I think, would join the United States in financially sanctioning the regime, in putting some sanctions on jet fuel, things like that, then we begin to restrict the only real advantage that the SAC regime has. And that's within the power of the international community to deliver precisely that. So we've got a lack of will, but I think that lack of will could be acquired quite easily if people just realise that this regime is not there for the longer term. They're not a partner for anyone.
And if they realize that any single day and any single week and any single month of the military staying in a control of the Naypyidaw means more destruction of the Myanmar, more killing, and a harder reversal. So in a certain way, not acting against the junta now means basically, let's say, letting the continuation of the destruction and war of terror against the people to continue.
Igor, there's one other
please.
area we can support in terms of the international community, and I talked about development assistance, and you've got the NUG, the K3C, you've got all the other local administration governance, and people are trying to now build reconstruction plans, economic restoration, economic recovery. All of this is underway without any support, but goodwill and, among friends. And that's one way we could support. So actually, all of the democratic partners and alliances and forces talk about the need to, build these plans now. We could give great support there, really good technical, practical support as well. And, of course, I agree with Sean about the sanctions.
And material support, put the money and put the resources in the hands of the emerging governing structures on the liberated territories. Yes. And this is something what we can do, what was easy to do it. Thailand can play extraordinarily important role by having, let's say, this big border with the Myanmar, and helping the local structures developing bottom-up governing service provision is something what is already on the ground and just needs the resources which can easily come if we have a political will. Sean, if we go to the question of the Myanmar economy, let's say, if we put aside the conflict and the war, but what disastrous policies are inflicting on the Myanmar economy, and you have been able to see, let's say, how the military capture of countries' natural wealth and economic assets, what does it mean for the development of the country? So I heard from time to time arguments that we need to get a peace. So in order to get a peace, we need to basically leave economy in the hands of the military and to buy their willingness for the peace. What will be your response for that? It's leaving economy in the hands of the Myanmar military for the sake of the peace.
Yeah, no, well, we certainly need to get the economy out of their hands, Igor, which is that's fairly obvious by just looking at the numbers. It's one thing about economics. We often say, look, if you want the truth, follow the money. And you look what's happened to the economy. The economy is 50% below where it should be. Any sort of reasonable trajectory of where the economy was in 2020 and where it is now, it is 50% below where it should be. So, the average Burmese person is half as prosperous as they should be. And when I say a word like prosperous, most Burmese people, as we know, are living hand-to-mouth existence. The penury of the country is really just quite extraordinary. It's almost there's almost unlimited measures of the decline or the collapse of the economy. But just to highlight one that really sticks out, the value of the currency now, the value of the JAT is heading towards 7,000 JAT to $1. Now, at the time of the coup, it was 1,300 to $1. So in other words, it's about 80% below what it was on that day of the coup. Now, there's many other indicators that are more important in people's, lived lives and their suffering and so on. But just as a nice financial indicator of what the military has done, that they've destroyed 80% of the value of the currency. And of course, behind all of that is the destruction of institutions, but above all, trust. Because basically that's what economics is. When we look at modern macroeconomics and finance and all that, in the end, it's trust. It's trust in institutions. And those institutions have just been completely undermined, of which, one of the most important is the currency. But, if we then go off into different sectors, electricity is now scantily available anywhere, including even in Naypyidaw, where it used to be reasonably guaranteed. The banking system, completely insolvent at the moment. In fact, the only reason there are not continual runs on the banks is just simply because, of course, the military stopped people at the barrel of a gun of withdrawing their money. If you look at the international situation, really the only economic policy that the regime has got is how to extract as much foreign exchange as possible from Burmese workers, Burmese firms. There are no incentives now to do anything because, if you invest or you create a new business, all that's likely to happen is the military going to come in and take it. So, just so many things have been undermined. We use the word development, but of course, what's really happening in Myanmar at the moment is de-development. This country that was going to be one of the tigers, it was one of the great sort of promises we had around 2018, 2019, that Myanmar could become the last and best of the tigers. It was going to have all the economic upside with a bit of democracy in there as well, which has not been so apparent elsewhere. But of course now it's back at the bottom of the barrel. Far and away the poorest country in Asia, and one of the poorest countries in the world. So yeah, the legacy of the SAC regime on the economy is just dreadful. They have to just get out of the way. So yeah, we must keep their clutching, greedy hands away from the economy.
Thank you. Now the question for all three of you is that currently probably everybody sees the weakness and incompetence of the Min Aung Hlaing's junta, and everybody is sincerely appalled by the brutality and atrocities what they are committing on a daily basis, and everybody does understand that the military is not able to consolidate the control anymore. But still, there is this lingering argument: junta cannot fall. And then basically, the only thing what is ahead of us is there is no end to the Myanmar crisis. So how you would argue against this defeatist point of view, and how you would argue that Myanmar tragedy can actually finish relatively quickly if only Myanmar neighbors, ASEAN, and international friends of the Myanmar change something in their approach. So Janelle, can you start, and then Kasit, if you can pick up.
Firstly, if we look at it factually, historically, the Myanmar military, the junta, have not been able to unite anyone. In fact, well, they have, but they've united everyone against them. So they've managed to do that. And what's happened now, you've got a whole lot of people who've come together in what I call a political pact, an alliance. They want the military out of their lives, out of government. Everybody wants military to do what military does, which is defense of the country. And they've shown over the last 3 years in particular, well, during, first of all, the government time of the NLD government, and now the people have shown they can work together. They can work together even with differences that they have, but they've shown this common cause. I call it a common cause. They want a prosperous Burma. They want a peaceful Burma. They want a federal Burma, and they want one that's democratic. And they want it to work in a particular way. They've shown, even under attack, aerial strafing, you know, people being murdered, people being jailed, people being exploited, in all of the terrible things that happen. But all of these groups and the sort of pro-democracy partners have shown that they have the will, they have the common cause, they have the tools, they have the intellectual capacity, and they're willing to give it a go. And that's what they've been doing for the last 3 years. That's what we have to recognise and continue to reinforce. The military has shredded the economy, as you heard from Sean. You know, I talk to my business friends in Myanmar, you know, small business, and they're just waiting for them to collapse so that something better can happen. You know, they have to line up for fuel, go out at 4 a.m. in the morning, line up for 4 and 6 hours. You know, and as we heard about the chat, the health and education's being destroyed and you've got others building it. So all of these things clearly, factually show the military cannot run the country. They can't even run themselves, ever alone the country. Do you know? Like we hear about, well, yes, I won't go into the rumours of yesterday, all the things that happened yesterday, but, you know, about coups, rumours, you know, but there's always a grain of truth with rumours because that's how you find out things in Myanmar. But it's just a recognition of the reality of the situation. The military have failed the people. They've even failed, you know, we talked about Burmanization. They failed the Burmas, you know, the dominant group. They've failed the ethnic nationalities. They've failed their cronies even now. So, and just the others are saying, we're willing to give it a go. We're doing it. We're together in this political pact. I think that's what we have to recognise and work with. All of the friends, all of the neighbours. And Kun Kasit says Thailand is in a great position, you know, to reach out. But we didn't talk about China, and China is active around Myanmar. They're in a position to work with others, like-minded as well. But, you know, there's all of these people involved, and we just have to recognise that our main priority is not Min Aung Hlaing and the SAC. And in fact, Kun Kasit talked about coming to the table, and yes, that's fine, but come to the table to exit government.
Kasit, what will be your argument? Let's say that no, let's say we are not in front of the endless Myanmar crisis, but it is possible to finish it quickly if we do something. We as a international community do something differently.
A collective position or message to be conveyed directly to the military junta that their days are numbered and finished. And second, the international community will render support and diplomatic recognition to the NUG and democratic forces and so on. And second, how to do this, to get this collective position. I would like to recall that during the time of Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, a body called Friends of Myanmar, Burma at that time were being set up at the United Nations headquarters. And during the UN General Assembly session and so on, all the foreign ministers of friendly country, Friends of Burma, did gather under the chairmanship of Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. And I think why not we suggest to the present Secretary General to set up this as sort of an informal gathering at the UN headquarters and get all the key players, you know, the ASEAN members, the major neighboring countries of Myanmar, particularly, I think, India, Bangladesh, and China, and some of the major dialogue partners of ASEAN, particularly the United States, Australia, UK, you know, the EU chair, and so on, and come together with a collective position and tell the Myanmar junta that they have to relinquish power and all of that. See, I think the UN has to come in. And concurrently, one could think about the UN peacekeeping force, like what they used to do inside Cambodia when the Vietnamese were asked to withdraw from Cambodia, the UN interim administration. All of this could be thought about within the UN context and so on. And even to have a sort of a master plan for the returns of all the refugees, including the Rohingyas, to Myanmar. But what it needs is the leadership of the UN Secretary General and whoever is in the chair of the UN Secretary General at that moment, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean, is there something in a side of the planning between the NUG and ethnic revolutionary organizations? Is there something in what they need to do now in terms of the planning for the future of the Myanmar, for the future of the economic recovery, for the future of the rebuilding the political institutions? Is there something what they need to do now? And they need to do it more visibly, more persuasively vis-a-vis international community, and what you would recommend to the NUG and ethnic revolutionary allies, what they should do in terms of the planning.
Yeah, most certainly, Igor. Of course, so everyone fighting involved in any sort of struggle need a vision of where they're going to go. And so it's important to project that vision. The really good news is that the actual work towards that vision is being done. It's, in fact, I'd say it is done. You know, I think all of us have mentioned how impressed we are by the younger people of Myanmar and what they've been able to achieve and so on. I've seen that firsthand. I've seen the financial team within the NUG and how they've cooperated with various other organizations as well. The plans are very well laid, very well progressed. And, you know, again, to contrast that vision against what we've got on the other side, you know, the SAC regime has reduced Myanmar's economy essentially to a war economy. That's it. You know, the entire economy is really just being used by the SAC regime to fund their wars. They don't even pretend anymore. They don't talk about health policy, education policy, trade policy, goodness knows, environmentalism or anything like that. All that's out the window. And yet on the other side, on the NUG side, plans for all of that is being done. And you know, I think really the major thing now is just to communicate that and to reassure people that this is the vision. It's practical, it's plausible. Essentially, it's ready to go. And as I say, juxtapose that against the incredible chaos that exists in Myanmar now under the SAC regime.
Kasit, you are experienced diplomat. You have been through your career dealing with probably all the countries which are relevant in the today's Myanmar context. Is there something specific what you would recommend to the NUG and ethnic revolutionary organizations in terms of their own international relations? Let's say what they should do to persuade Thailand, the neighbors, the ASEAN, the rest of the international community that if they want to bring democracy, peace, and development to Myanmar, they need to work with the NUG and ethnic revolutionary organizations and not try again and again to appease SAC.
I think I have suggested to the NUG leadership many times, and also to some of the ethnic minorities leader, the Karen, the Karenni, and so on, that they have to have a sort of a series of diplomatic notes to the various countries, ASEAN and so on, to update the ASEAN and the international community what they have been doing so far, achievements, shortcomings, you know, on the battle, on the ground, social services, administrative services and all of this, and the progress in terms of the drafting of the new federal democratic constitution. So it's for you, NUG, to reach out with information on the various progresses with a request for some help and so on. So a constant dissemination of information would be very much needed and of great help. Okay. And second, at the same time, we, okay, from the international NGO could also become a sort of a bridge between the NUG and our respective governments and so on. And I think each one of us has to urge our respective governments to stop hiding behind the ASEAN skirt or curtain and come out in the open and act accordingly. And it's about time that everyone, every government, democratic ones, to tell the junta, no more. You know, no more. No more some sort of informal contact and all of this and so on, just to have a full sanction of not dealing with it. And tell all the ambassadors that were appointed by the junta to take leave. So we need a much more drastic measures to tell the junta that they can no longer hold on to power and their existence on this earth is no longer a valid one. Strong words, strong action. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasit. Janelle, what will be your message to the Myanmar neighbors and international friends of the Myanmar? Why is now the time for the international community to, as it was said by the president, to stand on the right side of the history? Why they should, without delay, without reluctance, act to save the lives and help end the junta's war of terror against the population of the country?
Now's the time, because the SAC with Min Aung Hlaing, his military, you know, they brought the country to its knees, and it's just destroying it and murdering civilians, murdering women, murdering children, imprisoning people. So that's really clear. And it's only going to get worse, his behavior, and it's all about his ambition to be president. And so it's time to really step up, and we can help stop some of that carnage. But what I would say is we have to have the will, and I, you know, well knew the Friends of Myanmar at the UN when they used to come together, as Kun Kasit said, and we need that. For the NUG, K3C, and the, you know, what I call the alliance partners, communicate, communicate, communicate. And I always give that message because that is so important. And they do communicate a real lot to people in Myanmar, but a different communication. And like the diplomatic notes, like the updates, like this is what we've achieved, like these are our challenges, we need support. So just continual communicate, communicate, communicate. And, you know, short, sharp, clear, and really show how well they are governing, how well they are leading, how well they have pulled a whole lot of people together across Myanmar in this revolution of having a constitution, communicating what it's about, communicating. So yeah, communicate, communicate, communicate to my friends.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Well, at the end of our session today, we have been talking mainly having in mind that we are addressing international audience, the friends of the people of the Myanmar, to encourage them to understand that now is the time and that they should act. But I now wanted to give you opportunity that each of you in 1 minute, 2 minutes, give a message, your message to the people of Myanmar. They have gone through the traumatic tragic 3 years. They are going through the extraordinary heroic making of the new history, of the painful birth of the new country. So what is your message to the people of Myanmar? Sean, 1 minute, 2 minutes.
Yep. First thing, Igor, is from me personally, a very big thank you. Burmese people, much worse situation than I was the whole time I was a prisoner, and yet they extended their courage and their compassion to me. So to me, just a really big thank you from me to them. That's number one. The second point I wanted to make, I suppose, is just to reassure they will win. This is actually an empirical fact, I believe. The money, again, to use that expression, follow the money, all the financial indicators suggest the same as the indicators militarily on the ground, that this SA regime is being defeated. The third aspect I'd like to highlight, I think, Igor, is the incredible unity. I've spent the last year traveling all over the world, meeting Burmese community groups all over the place. The spirit of the people at the moment, the way in which people are unified, they're often exhausted. They've spent a lot of their money on the campaign and all that, and yet they're full of enthusiasm still. And at the end of every meeting, they're on their feet and pumping the air, etc. So that enthusiasm, I think, is a source of great encouragement for them and otherwise. And to keep that through, to perhaps not listen too much to some of the cynicism that sometimes comes from academics and think tanks and the like. Put all that aside, believe in their revolution, and they'll win it.
Thank you, Sean. Kun Kasit, what will be your message to the people of the Myanmar?
My deepest admiration for the guts and determination, the perseverance, the resilience, and the sense of unity, and still the sense of optimism. I wish you, all of them, great success. I am an optimist, and I think our Myanmar democratic friends will be able to reach their objective and targets in a democratic setting. Congratulations in advance from the depth of my heart.
Thank you, Kun Kasit. Janelle?
To the people of Myanmar, you will prevail. I applaud your courage. Your courage just knows no bounds. You go out and resist this tyrannical regime every day, knowing what might happen. So that's the first thing. You're resolute and you will prevail. You've also said there's no going back. And what I want to give reassurance is you have good friends, a lot of good friends around the world, and that I and those good friends, all of us, will stay with you in your journey and will support you in the best way we can to make sure that you get the peace, the chance to build prosperity, that you can live in some sort of harmony with all the peoples of Burma and, you know, have the government that you deserve, good government and a good economy, all those things. But look, I pledge to continue to support you in whatever way I can.
Thank you very much, Janelle. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Kun Kasit, and also the NUG President, Duala Shila. If you want to make any final remark, please, the floor is yours.
I'm very appreciate your participation and great chance to participate in listening your panel discussion. This is very precious. So I become realize that now the war become new precisely about our Myanmar situation, how we are structured. You discuss in many areas like the historical, Kasit, Piromya discussing the historical and also in the economically, Turnell, and very current situation, how to solve the problem. Janelle discussion is very helpful. I'm very like that Kasit discussion. Why you are not thinking about the peacekeeping troops sending to our? Then we can solve the problem easily, and we can sit together and discuss each other, and then we can overcome our hardship. We can overcome our tragedy time. Then we wish for the prosperity of Myanmar. Everybody, I'm very appreciate your ability and your discussion and your sharing discussion. Thank you very much. And also very want to say thank you, Igor, your organization and your performance of force. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, very much. And let me at the end just make a few remarks from my side. What's going on in Myanmar is something really extraordinary. Let's say we are witnessing, although many are not aware, let's say something what I personally compare with the anti-apartheid movement, with decolonization, liberation struggles around the world after the Second World War. I compare it with the anti-fascist, anti-Nazi struggles. I'm comparing it with the Solidarność movement in Poland. That means something which is extraordinary. It's not just tragedy. It's just not war. It's not just. It's something what is changing the history. And that changing of the history is happening because of the extraordinary courage of the people of the Myanmar, extraordinary resilience of the ordinary, simple citizen of the country who has, as our panelists have said, seen and experienced the freedom and have decided, no, this time you will not take it away from us. So junta will collapse, but unfortunately, because of the wrong approach of many of the Myanmar neighbors and of the international community, we don't know how long it will take. And as longer it is taking for junta to collapse, country is going in a deeper suffering and a deeper destruction, not because of the war, but because of what the junta is doing as a war of the terror against the civilian population. And for that reason, it's a really high time. All alarm bells are ringing that the Myanmar neighbors, ASEAN, UN, international community, Secretary General needs to respond on the level of the tragedy happening there, but also on the extraordinary opportunity which is existing in Myanmar. There is a solid consensus. There is a solid understanding between the revolutionary forces in Myanmar, and there is a broad popular support behind this consensus. People of Myanmar and stakeholders of Myanmar, they know what they want. They agree on what they want. They have articulated it many times. They have articulated that in January this year in a joint position statements. In every single statement which came after that by any of the revolutionary forces, they have been very, very clear what they are standing for: all-inclusive, federal, democratic country without military dominance in a politics and in the economy, with a civilian elected government and with the self-determination of the people of the Myanmar. Message is clear. People are standing behind that. Stakeholders are standing behind that. It's really now the high time for us in the international community, for the Myanmar neighbors to, after 3rd years of our inaction, let's say, to do just a little bit. People of Myanmar has done all the hard work. We just need to make a small contribution instead of keep on counting on the military junta as a solution. As Kun Kasit said, it's really time for all of the actors in the international community to say them clearly, it's time to go and leave. Thank you very much for participants of the panel. Thank you to the acting president, to the prime minister, and the organizers of this discussion. We will stand with the people of the Myanmar, all of us who have been your guests of the panel here, as long as it is needed. I hope it will be not so long anymore.